this is the kitchen.
It's the kitchen.
Allie Fortin's Rochester apartment is the perfect little place.
Hey, buddy.
Just enough space for her and her hedgehog. But for months, this perfect little apartment was empty. That's because the mover she and her mother had entrusted with everything Allie owned never showed up. Allie first sensed there was trouble when a guy in a truck arrived a day late to pack up her apartment in Portland, Oregon.
One man showed up at my door, an older guy, like probably in his 40s, alone, with two dollies with flat tires.
Fortunately, a family friend was there with tools and a strong back to help the lone mover load the truck. That was on May 28th.
All of your worldly possessions were in that truck.
Everything, yeah.
The contract promised a delivery within 21 business days, so her stuff was due to arrive by June 28th. But July rolled around and still no truck.
So my mom started calling them every single day, like, what's going on? Where are these movers?
I said, I need to speak to a manager. You have to email. I emailed 15 times in 2 weeks and got no response.
Allie's mother, Linda Russo, had hired a company called Gold Standard Moving and Storage, a moving broker that the BBB has given an F. A year after Allie's ordeal, the Florida Attorney General took civil action, saying Gold Standard violated state and federal law by holding themselves out to consumers as movers when in fact they are mere brokers that do not conduct moves. That broker had hired Princeton Moving and Storage of Illinois, a business for which the BBB now posts a warning alerting consumers to a litany of complaints.
And calling Princeton, all that ever happened was person is not available, the voicemail box is full.
But I was able to reach the owner of Princeton Moving and Storage by phone.
This is Deanna Dewberry with News 10 NBC.
During a lengthy, at times obscenity-laced tirade, he blamed a former employee who he claimed accepted moving jobs without his knowledge. And he said he knew nothing about the complaints being lodged against his business.
You said this was the fault of your former employee. So why don't you give me his name and number?
Then his story changed.
Now you're telling me you have a lot of employees and you don't know who did what.
He then blamed the broker for all of the issues. As for Allie, by mid-July, she still had no idea where her belongings were. But she is tenacious.
One of the cops that I was in contact with told me, he was like, at some point you're just going to have to give up. And I told him I will not. I said, no, that's not an option for me.
She and her mother created this Facebook page, Princeton Moving and Storage Champaign, Illinois Complaints Forum. Dozens of victims began posting their own horror stories, among them Cheryl Muller.
I was moving from Seattle, Washington to Ocean City, Maryland.
When Princeton didn't arrive with all her belongings on the designated day, July 16th, she says she called the owner repeatedly.
And he finally that night answered the phone and said, I don't know where your stuff is.
Everything she owned lost. So she and her newfound Facebook friends, Linda and Allie, along with other victims, began sleuthing, exchanging information, contacting police departments. And one day, Cheryl got a call from a police detective.
He called and he said, there was a truck found in Nebraska.
The driver of the truck had abandoned that big truck filled with household belongings on the side of the road. And when Cheryl got pictures of those belongings,
and I saw two things that were mine.
She then texted the pictures to Linda and Allie.
And I was like, Mom, that's my stuff. And we both just started crying and laughing. We're like, oh my God, we found it.
A family member flew to Nebraska and drove the truck with everything they owned here to Rochester. Cheryl flew from Maryland to meet them.
And I saw the truck. I burst out in tears.
It was just crazy. I mean, Cheryl and Allie just hugged and cried.
Remarkably, they both got all their stuff back. And while unpacking from a cross-country move is usually grueling, this was a celebration, a very happy ending, 2.5 months in the making.